Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a concept that is less about gentle evolution and more about radical, deliberate personal destruction and then rebuilding.
Right. Today's deep dive is definitely not about minor self-help tweaks. This is about total, non-negotiable transformation.
And the source material we're looking at, excerpts from Destroy the Old You and Rebuild Yourself Alone. Well, the title says it all, doesn't it?
It really does. It frames the entire thesis right there.
Right.
The argument is that true growth requires the systemic, intentional destruction of the old self.
It sets the stakes incredibly high from the very first page. The mandate is almost brutal in its simplicity.
It is. For success, for any real personal evolution to happen, the weak, the undisciplined, the fearful version of you, it has to die.
So it's not about waiting for a new identity to just, emerge over time.
No, it's an act of forced creation.
Yeah.
The central conflict it presents to you is this non-negotiable choice. Stay the same or burn the old version of yourself to the ground.
It reframes the entire idea of self-improvement. It's not a hobby. It's an act of, internal warfare.
Exactly. By stating that the old self must be destroyed, the text elevates transformation from something optional to an absolute necessity. It argues that if you want life-altering change, you can't wait for inspiration or for the right circumstances.
You have to become internally aggressive.
Yes, aggressive against the limiting habits and thought patterns that are, as the source puts it, holding you hostage. It demands that you take absolute control of the timeline. Now,
And that concept, that urgency, it brings us right to the foundation, section 1, burning the bridges to the past.
you can't just move forward tentatively. The material is very clear on this. Unless you sever your ties to the past, your future will always, always collapse back into the ruins you're trying to leave behind.
The past isn't just history in this context, is it? It's described as something more active, more dangerous.
It's a psychological gravity well. That's a great way to put it. It keeps people perpetually stuck, forcing them to replay past failures, mistakes, broken relationships.
Like a data loop running in the background of your mind.
A painful one, yeah. And since you can't rewrite those facts, the only way to get control over your future is to make a decisive, psychological, and often physical break from everything that defined that old reality.
So we're talking about a full inventory of what needs to be left behind. It's not just memories, it's the concrete stuff.
Right. The specific people who actively doubted you, the routines that kept you small, the comforting excuses that always prevented meaningful action.
It has to be a clean break. The decision is absolute, that life is over. But the source material really drills into the biggest obstacle here, which is the weight of guilt and shame.
It calls it the most insidious trap.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I think many of us are conditioned to be paralyzed by past mistakes. We feel like we owe something. Regret, maybe, before we earn the right to move forward.
Exactly. And the source argues that feeling of being trapped by failure is completely misplaced. Carrying guilt only slows you down and drains the energy you need for today.
The text is really firm on this.
Incredibly firm. You must forgive yourself, extract the lesson, and crucially, move on. Immediately. It emphasizes this is an internal decision you make, regardless of what the outside world expects from you.
And that leads to a really interesting and, honestly, counterintuitive point about closure. Culturally, we're obsessed with needing resolution. An apology from someone, that one last conversation.
The perfect goodbye.
Yeah.
The source just vehemently rejects that. It labels the need for external closure as a form of dependence. You're giving other people veto power over your own transformation.
I've never thought of it that way.
It asserts you need zero external resolution to move on. All you need is the internal decision that your new future is exponentially more important than holding on to those old emotional threads. Waiting for someone else to validate your peace is ceding control.
And self-reinvention demands you take that control back.
Yeah.
Ruthlessly.
Yes. Which is where the idea of social sacrifice hits hardest. This is often the most painful part of the process for people.
Separating from past friends. The people who loved the old, comfortable, predictable you.
This is a point the material dedicates serious weight to. It delivers a stark warning. The people who knew the old, undisciplined, doubtful you may become the unconscious saboteurs of the new you.
Why, though? Is it malicious?
Not always. It's because your transformation forces them to look at their own stagnation, and that's painful for them. So they might try to pull you back into old routines, they might doubt your mission, or, often secretly, they might hope you fail just so they can feel comfortable again.
So they become anchors, not the wings you need for liftoff.
Precisely. They are anchors.
But how does the source handle the collateral damage? I mean, especially with close relationships, family, people who might feel genuinely abandoned by this new identity.
The guidance is difficult, but it's pragmatic. Ruthless self-protection. The text acknowledges this will cause pain, but it insists that the mission of rebuilding yourself is paramount.
So if someone doesn't respect your decision to grow,
If their interaction is rooted in resistance, in doubt, in trying to bring you back down to their level, you have to create distance.
it doesn't always mean a big confrontation then.
No, not at all. Often it just means creating firm boundaries, drastically reducing interaction time, and just deprioritizing them in favor of your goals. Their resistance, even if it's well-intentioned, will chip away at your new identity, and that cannot be allowed.
So it's not just about cutting people off. It's also about destroying the old habits that define that weaker self, the late nights, the wasted hours.
Correct. If you keep the same routines and environments that kept the old self stuck, the old self will just reappear. It's inevitable.
So the elimination of triggers isn't just advice, it's a tactical move.
Yeah.
It's environmental design.
It is. The source gets very concrete here. Define the specific triggers, that one route home that takes you past the old hangout, a particular song that triggers nostalgia, certain social media accounts that prompt comparison, and you have to ruthlessly cut them out.
It sounds like you're cleansing your entire mental ecosystem, creating a sterile environment where only growth is possible.
Precisely. The transformation has to be comprehensive. You're committing to a new identity, and you have to destroy anything, physical, digital, or social, that allows the old programming to activate. You commit, you execute, and you make sure there's no path back. The bridge isn't just left behind, it's burned to ash.
Okay, so if burning the bridges frees up all this energy and focus, the next step is figuring out how to leverage that freedom. Which brings us to the deep work that, according to the source, can really only be done in solitude. So section 2. And here's where it gets really interesting, the power of solitude and self-reliance. The source has really challenged the modern fear of being alone.
Oh, absolutely. The modern world is, it's engineered to make us terrified of silence and isolation. We're bombarded with pressure for constant connection, external validation, approval.
Right. Being alone is seen as a failure.
Exactly. But the material argues that this constant external noise is the primary barrier to any profound transformation. When those distractions are intentionally cut off, powerful change isn't just possible, it becomes inevitable.
The implication here is that walking alone is a statement of tremendous strength, not a weakness.
It is the ultimate expression of internal independence. And the core purpose of this solitude is self-discovery through enforced isolation. I mean, think about it. When you remove the daily expectations of your friends, the judgment of society, the historical limits placed on you by family, you're forced to confront your deepest fears.
Your true weaknesses, your insecurities,
All of it. You peel back the layers until you find the real operating system.
and you learn who you truly are, stripped of all the projections and expectations others have placed on you.
Yes. The text insists that genuine transformation, that moment you become truly honest about your current state and your required future state, it only begins when you are in absolute unforgiving silence.
And the value of that silence is transformative. The source mentions that in solitude, the mind becomes clear. But how does silence translate into actual power?
Silence is intellectual and emotional power. It provides focus and clarity that's just impossible to maintain in a chaotic, crowded environment. When you stop listening to the millions of conflicting opinions, the fear of judgment, the limitations others impose, you finally hear your own mission.
Your true vision.
Your true vision, your genuine reason for enduring the struggle. This clarity is the ultimate competitive advantage. It allows for the kind of deep, focused work that the distracted mind simply cannot sustain.
That's why they use that powerful analogy. A lion does not need a pack to be a king.
It captures the spirit of independence and self-mastery perfectly. The source highlights that almost every successful figure in history, CEOs, athletes, artists, they all spent focused, often lonely, periods of time mastering their craft in the shadows, far away from public scrutiny.
And that independence builds an ironclad self-respect.
It does. When you eliminate your reliance on external validation, whether it's for emotional comfort or for self-worth, you become fundamentally immune to manipulation. You can walk your own, often lonely path with absolute confidence.
This all sounds incredible for the disciplined individual, but let me challenge this for a second. How does the source material address the very real human need for connection? I mean, doesn't this radical isolation risk devolving into crippling loneliness, or worse, Arrogance.
That's a critical question, and the material doesn't advocate for perpetual isolation. It's about strategic solitude. It clarifies this is a temporary, necessary phase for intense development and clarity.
A training period.
Exactly, a period of deep work where you build the foundation. Once that new identity is forged and the routine is unbreakable, you can selectively engage with people, but you're engaging from a place of strength, not neediness.
And the arrogance part.
The source argues true self-reliance actually removes arrogance. Arrogance often comes from insecurity. It needs an external defense. When you know through solitary experience exactly what you are capable of, you don't need to brag. Your results speak for themselves.
That concept of earned self-reliance ties directly into Chapter 9's pivotal moment, the acceptance that no one is coming to save you.
That phrase is the defining moment of self-sovereignty. The text explains that human dependence is a weakness because it removes the necessity for resourcefulness. If you constantly rely on a mentor or a family safety net or some perfect opportunity.
You never develop the skills to solve problems yourself. You stay weak.
Precisely. So this realization is the end of waiting. You stop waiting for the external savior, the perfect moment, the perfect guide, and you force yourself to become your own leader.
This is what separates people who succeed despite obstacles from those who just have a list of reasons why they failed.
It's the difference between asking for a fish and forcing yourself to build the fishing gear, even in a storm. And that struggle is the whole point.
And this philosophy, it guarantees true freedom.
It does. When your financial security, your emotional stability, your self-worth no longer rely on external forces, a job, a relationship, public opinion, you gain complete independence. You become immune to manipulation, your own unshakable source of strength.
This level of empowerment requires an incredible amount of effort, which brings us perfectly to Section 3, the work ethic. Embracing discomfort and using pain as fuel. This section has the core philosophy. Comfort is the enemy.
This is where the rubber meets the road, and it creates the most intense friction for the average person. The source states, very emphatically, that strength is built through struggle and challenge, not by choosing the path of least resistance.
So comfort is a trap.
A dangerous one. It secretly destroys your potential, leads to stagnation, makes you soft. The rule is simple. If you are comfortable, you are not growing.
So the goal is to intentionally seek out difficult, uncomfortable, or scary tasks. That feeling of resistance is actually a signpost that you're going in the right direction.
It's the unavoidable price of success. The reason most people fail to achieve their big goals is purely based on their avoidance of struggle. They want the results without paying the price of effort, sacrifice, and pain.
The source is clear. The more discomfort you can endure, the stronger you become.
It's directly proportional. Discomfort is the currency of evolution. And this is where the material elevates pain from something to be avoided to something to be actively used.
Right. Chapter 10 reframes pain not as an enemy, but as an indispensable teacher and a fuel source.
Pain is viewed as raw, transformative energy. It does two things immediately. First, it brutally reveals your weaknesses, forcing you to address them. Second, it compels you to level up your strategy and execution.
The text uses that metaphor. The fire that melts the weak parts of you is the same fire that hardens the strong warrior that remains.
It's intense, yeah. It suggests that suffering is necessary to create a foundation of competence. The source says repeatedly that suffering creates warriors. It teaches you lessons you could never learn from success.
So the worst moments of your life, the failures, the rejections, they're not setbacks. They're the foundation of your success.
The literal, non-negotiable foundation. You have to harness that negative emotional energy and convert it into focused, unstoppable action.
But this sounds like a commitment to lifelong hardship. If we're always seeking discomfort, when do we get to enjoy the results?
The material makes a critical distinction there. It's a commitment to lifelong evolution, not lifelong misery. The text contrasts two types of pain. The pain of discipline, which is temporary and leads to lasting strength, versus the pain of regret, which lasts for life.
So you choose the short-term suffering that builds long-term competence.
Exactly. And that mindset shift is the key lever for destroying the most common barrier of all, procrastination.
Procrastination is seen not as just a bad habit, but as a crisis of identity, a failure on the mental battlefield.
It's the habit of intentionally avoiding responsibility. Every time you delay a crucial, difficult task, you are wiring your brain to choose comfort over necessary struggle. You're training yourself to lose.
And the only counter is immediate action. Take action now. Burn the habit of waiting.
The choice is always simple and binary. Suffer now and gain future success, or stay comfortable now and live with pervasive regret. The new identity is defined by its ability to choose future strength, even if it requires pain today.
If the work ethic is the engine, then the mindset is the navigation system. So moving into Section 4, programming the unstoppable mindset, we're shifting from physical struggle to internal architecture.
Right. The mind is presented as the absolute foundation of your reality. And the first step is erasing the old programming.
Most people are running on conditioning they never consciously chose, limitations from family, society.
Beliefs that dictate what's possible for them. The core mission here is to act as a ruthless psychological editor, deleting the old mindset, specifically targeting beliefs like, I'm not smart enough, or I always fail when it gets hard.
But these aren't facts. They're just stories.
Deeply embedded stories, yes.
So how do you practically start this deletion process? If they're so ingrained, how do you even identify them?
It requires radical awareness, constant, disciplined self-monitoring. You have to pay meticulous attention to your daily internal monologue. Whenever a thought comes up that restricts you, the source says you have to challenge it immediately.
The core question being, is this a proven fact or is it just a fear?
Exactly. And most limits, when you hold them up to that scrutiny, are revealed to be psychological illusions. They only exist in your mind.
And this process ties back to the power of language. The words you use literally program your reality.
Absolutely. The material stresses that the subconscious mind is the dominant driver of your life, and it believes whatever you consistently feed it. If you keep saying, I can't afford that, your brain stops looking for solutions and starts looking for evidence to confirm your limits.
So you have to replace those thoughts
With affirming present tense statements. I am capable. I am growing stronger. I am mastering this skill.
And visualization is the key to making this internal programming stick.
It's the accelerator. The subconscious mind can't reliably tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. The source advocates for daily visualization, focusing not just on the outcome, but on the feeling of being the powerful, disciplined person completing the task.
You're pre-wiring the neural pathways.
You're providing undeniable evidence to your subconscious that the new self already exists.
But thinking like a champion isn't enough. Your actions have to align with that mindset.
That's the critical loop. You can't sustain a champion's mindset while living an amateur's life. This is where identity reinvention from Chapter 8 comes in. Identity isn't fixed. It's a fluid construct created by consistent thoughts, habits, and actions.
So to change your life, you have to erase the old labels. Shy, lazy, unsuccessful.
You erase them by proving them wrong. The new identity is built and reinforced through consistent actions that confirm the new self-image. You have to speak, walk, and live like the person you want to become.
So it's not I'm trying to be disciplined. It's I am disciplined. And then you immediately prove it with action.
Exactly. You are what you consistently do. And this new mindset completely flips the script on failure. The old self was paralyzed by failure. The new self embraces it as essential fuel.
Failure isn't the opposite of success.
It's just immediate, valuable feedback. A lesson that strengthens your strategy and pushes you closer to the inevitable breakthrough.
That sounds like a full-time, round-the-clock commitment. Which brings us to Section 5, disciplined execution. We have the philosophy, we have the mindset. How do we install this into the daily grind? So what does this all mean for the day-to-day choices?
It means building the unbreakable routine. Chapter 6. The source emphasizes that success isn't built in massive, rare moments of inspiration. It's built through small, daily, compound habits.
The routine is the blueprint for your future.
It is, and its main function is to eliminate your reliance on motivation, which is volatile and unreliable. The routine makes success automatic.
And the core philosophy seems to be consistency over perfection. I think a lot of us fall into the trap of setting routines that are too intense to maintain.
That's a key distinction the source makes. The routine has to be sustainable, not immediately extreme. Focus on 3 to 5 high-impact habits: early rising, exercise, deep work on your main mission that you can execute consistently day after day.
Consistency creates mastery, not intensity.
Exactly. Repetition wires the discipline deep into your identity. And the golden rule here is crucial. Never skip 2 days in a row. 2 skip days becomes a pattern, and that pattern destroys all momentum.
And winning the morning is highlighted as setting the tone for the entire day.
The first hour of the day is identified as sacred. Win the morning, win the day. That first hour has to be spent with purpose reading, planning, exercise, deep work, and it has to be fiercely protected from distractions.
No phone, no social media, no news.
No external negativity before you've completed your essential tasks. It's an act of self-defense for your mental space.
A huge benefit of this is eliminating decision fatigue, which drains mental energy so quickly.
Absolutely. When your routine is automatic, you stop wasting precious cognitive energy every morning debating what to do. You just execute the plan. Reducing those small decisions drastically increases discipline, so you can save your willpower for the big, important tasks.
The routine has to be non-negotiable. No excuses left.
Right. And to protect that sacred routine, we have to talk about the necessary external cuts, cutting off negative influences. Chapter 5. This is where that ruthless self-protection comes back.
Negativity is portrayed as a virus.
A highly infectious one. It spreads doubt, weakens your resolve, and poisons your vision. The source requires the permanent and ruthless removal of any influence that introduces drama, distraction, or doubt into your life.
It calls them energy drainers, the complainers, the drama addicts.
And defines them as anchors that demand your precious time and focus, keeping you stuck in low-level chaos.
But this requires exceptional diplomacy when these energy drainers are people we're close to family, long-term friends.
The material doesn't mandate complete isolation, but it demands radical boundary setting. If the interaction involves constant complaining or trying to pull you back, the interaction time has to be severely limited.
You learn to listen without participating.
You nod without internalizing the negativity. The core message is this. You have to prioritize your future success over comforting their current stagnation. Your mission is non-negotiable.
And this gets even trickier because sometimes negativity disguises itself as genuine concern, right? Especially when you start to level up.
That is a critical psychological insight from the text. When you start to transform, it makes some people deeply uncomfortable because your elevation exposes their own inertia.
So they mask their resentment as concern. Are you sure you aren't working too hard? You've changed.
Exactly. And the instruction here is absolute. Ignore them. Their opinions do not matter. Their fear of your success is irrelevant to your mission.
Which just reinforces the inner circle rule. You become like the 5 people you spend the most time with.
If your inner circle lacks discipline, is distracted, or shows no commitment to growth, they are conditioning you for mediocrity. You have to ruthlessly seek out a new circle that reflects the ambition required for your future.
And this is all about protecting sacred energy. Chapter 15.
Your energy is your most valuable resource. It's finite. And distractions, unnecessary conversations, arguments, wasted hours scrolling are the enemy of greatness. They lead to mental clutter and burnout.
So discipline is the ultimate protector of that energy.
It means training your focus by constantly and firmly saying no to invitations, no to low-value requests. You have to be ruthless in protecting your focus, recognizing that every notification, every request drains a finite resource. If you don't dictate where your energy goes, someone else will dictate your schedule and ultimately your achievements.
Finally, we move to Section 6, Mastery and Sustained Success. This starts with emotional control is true power. This feels like the advanced stage of discipline.
It's the ultimate measure of self-mastery. Emotions, fear, anger, frustration are massive weaknesses that lead to poor, impulsive decisions you will inevitably regret.
So true power is the ability to pause between a stimulus and your response.
A significant pause, yes. The strongest people are not emotionless, but they never allow their feelings to dictate their actions. They respond with logic, clarity, and discipline.
This means discipline must fundamentally and consistently beat motivation.
Absolutely. Motivation is a beautiful but temporary visitor. Discipline is a lifelong, reliable resident. Discipline is the commitment to doing the work regardless of your mood, the weather, or how you feel on any given day.
It's choosing long-term success over short-term pleasure.
Your feelings are irrelevant to your future. Only your consistent, disciplined habits dictate your ultimate success.
And the final strategic piece of this mastery is about the power of silence. Moving in the shadows, Chapter 14.
Powerful people do not announce their every move. The source gives a key warning here. Talking about your ambitious plans actually weakens them. When you announce a goal prematurely, your mind gets a false dose of satisfaction, like you've already achieved it.
Without having done any of the actual work.
Right. It's social reality leakage. The work has to be done in silence, with execution and results as the only priority.
So silence serves as both protection and an accelerant for momentum.
It shields your mission from external negativity, doubt, and sabotage from those who might envy or fear your success. And by moving in silence, you can conserve enormous amounts of mental energy that would otherwise be spent explaining or defending your choices.
You build unstoppable momentum quietly.
You execute your strategy ruthlessly in the dark, and you emerge only when your results are so significant that no words are necessary.
The less you reveal, the more power and control you hold.
Control over the narrative, control over interference, and control over your own psychological drive. When the world doesn't know your next move, they can't block it. This allows you to emerge not just successful, but fundamentally unstoppable. Let your results speak louder than any words you could ever use.
We have now mapped the entire framework. We burned the bridges, embraced solitude and pain, programmed an unstoppable mindset, and mastered disciplined, silent execution. This brings us to the final commitment, Chapter 13.
The summary here is crucial. This transformation is not a phase. It's not a temporary diet or a month-long experiment. It is a permanent, non-negotiable shift in identity.
There is no going back to the old version of you.
None. Every decision going forward has to align with this stronger identity. The moment you permit yourself the possibility of going back, the old self will begin to reclaim its territory.
And the process itself is lifelong. It's not a destination you just arrive at and stop.
No, it's a commitment to continuous pushing, continuous evolution, and continuously leveling up your standards. The new identity demands higher standards perpetually.
You're no longer permitted to settle for mediocrity or accept excuses.
The new you is built for challenges, not comfort. You've done the difficult, painful work that few are willing to do. You have truly destroyed the weak foundations and rebuilt yourself from the ground up, alone.
That brings us to our final provocative thought for you to chew on after this incredibly dense deep dive. You have destroyed the weak, lazy, and doubtful self, and the new you is powerful, disciplined, and unstoppable. You have faced the fire and hardened your resolve. But now that you have built this new self and accepted the permanence of this shift, there's one last question that will truly test if this change is fixed.
You've mastered the grind when things are going well. You've protected your peace when the distraction's called.
But the most critical test of your new identity is not how you handle success or how you tackle the tasks you plan for, but what you choose to do the very next time life forces you into unexpected discomfort. Are you still prone to falling back on old weakness when the easy path calls? Or is the old version of you finally, truly, and permanently dead? Think on that as you move forward.